So we're recording now. This is Daniel, and I'm joined by Kim. And Kim invited me to talk to her about a topic that she was given as part of the Joshua Abundance Boot Camp. And this is about worthiness and about messages from Source, inner self or higher self, and from our guides. And when Kim invited me, I got a lot of downloads about it, and I'd like to just share those, and then we're going to share from our personal experience about this. So I asked you, Kim, to reacquaint yourself with applied kinesiology, because I was really getting that it was about the cellular structure that was really important with this. And how it ties into worthiness. So just starting out, I got that cells really don't have any wobble in their vibration. They are part of the community of the body, every single cell, and they serve a specific predetermined purpose. And the cell absolutely accepts its role without question. So for example, if you have, or rather like a cell that's in your thumbnail, does not have aspirations to be a brain cell or a heart cell. It's perfectly content to be just that little cell in your nail. And it accepts that absolutely. There are no aspirations of being anything different. It's part of the community of the body. All is one, all is equal. Cells individually do not experience fear. They do not fear death. And the example that, or the picture that I was shown is what many people probably have seen at some point, where if you take like a microscopic view of your arm and you brush like this, all of these dead cells brush off. We just don't see it with our naked eye. And those may become dust bunnies somewhere in the corner of your closet or underneath a piece of furniture. And so the cells don't have any fear about being turned to dust. Not at all. I also got that this is in part because a cell experiences a lifespan that's much shorter than ours as the entire human organism. And evidently, our body replaces every cell in its organism in our body every 7 to 10 years. And many cells have lifespans much shorter than that. Anybody who's gotten a scratch, they notice it healing. That's the regeneration of cells and the casting away of old cells. So the cells are part of our millions of guides and supporters. The cells do have a purpose also for the basic survival and well-being of our body, but they have no attachment to any outcome beyond that. The body is hardwired for survival. However, it will allow dis-ease to manifest when we are out of alignment for an extended period of time. To the extent that they can, cells repair themselves, but they are willing to shut down. It's just like the whole body goes into shock, or organs start to shut down when we're close to our transition time. It's that kind of a thing. And the reason why applied kinesiology or muscle testing works is because, again, there's no wobble in the cell's vibration. So in the presence of truth, the muscle structure will remain strong. In the presence of non-truth, it goes weak. The cells in our body do not try to figure out what is true or what is false. There's just a knowingness about what is true and what is false. Now, in a certain respect, might think that a cell has a much better experience than we do. There's no wobble in their vibration, very little attachment to an outcome beyond basic survival, can automatically tell truth from falsehood. However, the cells themselves do not experience a trajectory. They come back into physical reality, they serve as a cell, and nothing else. And then they come back and they do this an infinite amount of times. So who we are as a higher being, in living a physical experience in this body, we are the indwelling of consciousness. So this is consciousness manifested. It's who we are as a soul. We have a soul trajectory. Every lifetime is guiding us on that path of self-discovery from the higher perspective. So this would be very much unlike what the cell experiences. So we do enter physical reality to conduct many explorations. And you could say the worthiness is one such exploration. And worthiness is something that we carry with us at all times, but sometimes we have the illusion that we're unworthy. And where this connects to the guidance system from our source and our guides and inner self, is that we are meant to experience this illusion of unworthiness so that we can consciously dispel the myth and integrate into our consciousness that we are worthy. There's many different explorations that we can do. It's infinite. But if we don't have that base of worthiness to start with, all of those explorations at some point, we're going to experience a lot of contrast in those, because if we don't start out, or rather if we continue to believe at a deep level that we're unworthy, then at some point it's going to start to manifest into whatever we've created. So somebody can effort and struggle their way to becoming a CEO of an organization, a corporation, but if they on some level don't believe that they're worthy of being that CEO or leader, then it will show up. Okay, so where this relates with me, just give me one moment here. Okay, so what I was getting out of this for myself personally is that where I am presently, I channel a group of non-physical entities. They call themselves the Oracle. I did the Joshua boot camp a year ago, and then a few months afterwards started to channel in written form the Oracle. But now I'm at a point to where I really am being called to be a teacher. So going back in my life, I went back to childhood where I was that kid that every time the teacher asked the classroom for the answer to a question, my hand shot up right away and I held it there. And I would get so annoyed if the teacher did not call on me to answer that question, because I had a real desire to be an expert and to have that validated, right? So then I fast forward to a point to where somebody told me off the cuff one time, I think you'd make a great teacher. And I said, no, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be responsible for anybody's education. Are you kidding me? But then I did notice that in previous jobs, like I worked for a chain of bookstores called Borders, that I'm sure you probably remember, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as part of that, I actually got to serve as a trainer, to where whenever they would open a new store, they would fly in a group of trainers, and we would get that store ready, and we'd teach the staff about all of their duties, and I taught them how to operate the register. And I really embraced this role because for me, it was just like, I made it so fun. I made it really light. We were laughing the whole time we were learning all of these things. And somebody told me, you know, I really like you the best as the trainer because you're not too serious, right?
Cool.
So that was really exciting. But then at the same time, my first partner was a professor of Italian at a university. And I just remember him at the kitchen table having to grade all of those term papers. And it's just long hours at that kitchen table after he got home from the university. And I thought, you know, that just seems like a lot of effort and struggle to be a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where I am presently, and this is where I'm stepping into my worthiness and to where now I'm open to the messages. So the message I'm receiving is you have such a specific, concrete idea of what it is to be a teacher, right? Um, and really, you can teach anything you want in any method or manner you want to do it. Okay? Your vibrational match the teaching at this present time. You and I are on this Zoom call. This is so easy.
There it is.
I
Yeah.
didn't have to fly up to, you live somewhere in New England. I didn't have to, yeah, I didn't have to fly all the way up there for us to have this meeting or spend thousands of dollars on fancy computer software. So we have the tools for creation and for exploration right here at our fingertips. But again, the universe is making it as easy for us as it can to do these kinds of explorations that we want to do. We've never lived in or rather humanity has never lived in a more abundant time. However, if we feel unworthy of it, we will not even touch these tools that are so easy to use, that are so accessible, right?
Right.
So that's kind of where it kind of connects for me, the worthiness piece, and as far as receiving all of these messages from my inner self and from my guides.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, Kim, is there anything along those lines that you would identify for yourself?
Well, I would say that worthiness is something, you know, like it is for everyone. It's been difficult for me to discover it, I guess, or uncover it. I feel like I am becoming more aware of feeling like I do deserve to have certain things, have an enjoyable life, just do the things that I enjoy doing, which I didn't ever really even consider that. I feel like sometimes I might be starting from a very beginner, you know, course of worthiness, but I suppose, you know, everyone has different levels of feelings of worthiness. I don't really feel like I connect, and I would like to more, with my inner guides. And it was interesting where you talked about the cells being your millions and supporters. I never even gave that a thought at all. That was really interesting. So that makes me feel like, well, okay, right within me, there's those. I have supporters, which is kind of a nice, comforting thing.
Yeah.
Um, but so I would really like to explore that. In fact, I've been going, when I go to bed at night, you know, I'll say, please make me aware of my inner self. I'm welcoming my inner self to communicate with me. And maybe it is, and I'm just not sensitive enough to it right now. But I'm sort of at the very beginnings of, you know, of that, exploring that stuff. But I really have a very deep longing, or I don't know if that's like a desire, I guess,
Yes.
have more of that.
Right. So I think part of that, because I can really see myself in you in that regard. I think part of it too, though, is that the non-physical communicates with us in a different ways. It's not always going to be that inner voice.
Hmm.
So anytime we experience a synchronicity, that is guidance from our higher selves. They're creating that synchronicity for us to attach onto something positive, right?
Like the book, this Power versus Force that I found that my husband had in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. That was like so. For those of y'all watching, Power versus Force was a book published in 1995 by Dr. David R. Hawkins. So he took applied kinesiology and did all of these experiments with it and realized that the body could not, or rather was not only able to identify what kind of food, for example, is healthy for it, it could also discern truth from falsehood on a cellular level. So the muscle responds, the muscle remains strong, again, in the presence of truth, and it goes weak in the presence of falsehood. But the funny thing is that I got in this download, okay, have Kim do a little bit of research on applied kinesiology. And I thought, okay, well, that's a little broad-based. So I said, well, Kim, specifically just do a little research about this book, Power versus Force by Dr. David R. Hawkins. And sure enough, I get this message from you, Kim, and you showed me this book that was, that your husband had. So it just was like the universe had planted that there. And this is where it gets really exciting, right, for me, because you have to consider that in a way you changed the past, right? Because it came into your vibration about this book and your husband had it, right? But prior to that moment, was that on your radar that your husband had that book?
No,
No.
I had no idea.
You had no idea, right? So that's how the universe works. So that is guidance. That is a form of guidance. It's funny because, and here's the thing too, we can get a little bit caught up in trying to get validation of worthiness from non-physical, from source, or from our inner self or our guides. But the manifestation of something like that is synchronicity. It's because you were excited about it, I'm sure to some degree, to research this, and it was manifested into your physical reality, right?
That's true, yeah. So
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, you did that. So again, it's the whole part of it too is that we look at it sometimes as, okay, I'm down here, they're up there, right? And I'm just like this passive receptacle waiting for all of this guidance to come down from on high. And really, we're at a meeting point at all times with it, right? Mm-hmm. And we are a co-creator. That's why in the spiritual community, it's often said that we are all co-creators with God or source for that specific reason. So you can just be a little, as my friend Isabel says, loosey-goosey about it, and just allow those things to come in. And that's also a guidance system. It's a synchronicity, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes too, I find that, because I've had those nights before where I've just laid down and I thought, okay, guide me here. But sometimes even just thinking about those things, not from a point of attachment, but from a point of being curious about it, mm-hmm. will bring in that guidance, right? Because when you are just stay in that curious place before you go on trajectories in your mind, because that's what your ego wants to do, right? Right. It wants to run all of these if-then scenarios and play out all of the multiple outcomes. But if you stay curious, you're going to get to that resonance, right?
I know what you're saying because, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'd like to have, it's like I prefer it to come in this form, like I'd like to have just like you said, these downloads or, voice in my head or whatever, but then I'm trying to control things. So I need to just keep it open, loosey-goosey.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's something about it too. If you really think about it, it really did not matter for this conversation today whether or not your husband had that book, right? Because, you would have just gone online and went to a website and read a little bit about it, right?
Yeah.
So that, in that respect, you're being loosey-goosey because you have different ways of acquiring the information. Because now if you had told yourself like, okay, I need to go look in my bookcase and see if there's any book about that, because I need to be able to hold in my hands and read it. That's the only way I can absorb the information. Mm-hmm. Then maybe that book would not have manifested, right?
Right.
But because you were just open about it and not attached to any outcome of gathering information is how this came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think so.
I wouldn't have, yeah, I wouldn't have expected that he would have had it. I was
Right.
surprised when he said, I think I have that book. It's right over there.
And you know what's funny is I remember when I worked for Borders, occasionally customers would come in and ask for that book. And I mean, I didn't know what it was about. I'd just go grab it off the shelf and give it to them. But I think that book kind of became a word of mouth thing at one time.
Hmm.
I wasn't aware of it before I started really studying spirituality and consciousness. But so yeah, it really does not surprise me that your husband had that book.
Yeah.
Um, so here's the thing too, is like, and even if you think about it, so your husband that you've been married to for X amount of years, you have a daughter together, right? An adult daughter?
Hmm.
Okay. So it's like you never learn everything about everything.
Right.
There's always more to learn, and even your husband, right?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
always more to learn,
Yeah.
right?
Because I didn't even ask him, like, I should have asked him, how did you happen to get that book? I mean, he has lots of spiritual books, but I wonder where he actually got the idea or thought to get that book. So I have to ask him
Right.
that when we get off the call.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But just hold somewhere in your vibration too that this is a collaboration with the universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that him attracting that inspiration to buy this book whenever he did was him also co-creating with you
Mm. Oh, yeah.
and his guides and your guides and source. I mean, it's just all collaboration, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you have something that you want to create, for example, I've talked to you before, messaged with you about the anxiety that I have, and that has developed into this like body tension. So in my mind, this is what I want to feel worthy, I guess, to be able to release this. So I'm trying to control conditions, I suppose, because I've also been experimenting with just allowing it to be, because there must be a higher purpose for this. So, but that is something that sort of is a focus for me.
Hmm.
So I don't really know that. I'm sort of a little stuck on that, because I do find, I say to myself, well, if I only could get rid of that, I would feel much, I know I would feel better, of course, because it doesn't feel good. But I feel like my inner self, or my inside of my body, feels like it's relaxed, but then the outside of my body is encased in this shell. And
Right.
I, and that's almost like, I feel like that prevents me almost from receiving um, the information,
Yeah.
or, you know?
Yes. So one thing to realize is that aspects of you exist in every single dimension, even fifth dimension and beyond. Some part of you is at every dimension, but the thing is that you're being encased because you are in this density, right? Um, to where you're not letting go and giving yourself perhaps the permission, even just to be open
Hmm.
and just to allow things to be, right?
Right.
Um, but I can relate to you in that a lot of times it's that self-judgment. So let me, I guess, share how that shows up for me is that I do occasionally get lower back pain. Um, and I hadn't had a serious episode of it for a long time because I've been doing my soul work. I've been really focusing on more present moment awareness and exploring these things and whatnot. But my mother happened to have been, um, actually, my mother contracted the coronavirus a couple of months ago.
Wow.
And so she was at her nursing home, and anyhow, long story short, she was in the hospital for a week, but with very mild symptoms. They just did some blood work on her. That was really the only reason they were holding on to her, was doing various blood work and MRI and stuff like that. But then they put her into this skilled nursing facility to be where she had to be until she had 2 negative tests back to back before she could go back to the nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
So she was in the Subparallel Environment. She didn't like the food. Staff was actually going out and buying with their own money something for her to eat because she hated everything that they had to offer. And even at that, they would bring it to her, and like they brought her a sandwich, and she was questioning whether or not that was whole wheat bread. so so I was getting these phone calls, and this skilled nursing facility is like almost an hour's drive from where I live. Maybe not, maybe like 50 minutes away from where I live driving, right? And they were like, well, do you think you can maybe bring up your mother something to eat that she might like? Obviously, you know her better than we do. And I was like, okay, I cannot be making this nearly 2-hour round trip every time my mother decides that she doesn't like what they're offering to eat, right? And it was just different complaints. My mother was used to how they viewed things at the nursing home. They did things slightly different at the skilled nursing facility or whatever. And so it's like my mother was blowing up my phone constantly. I was getting these constant phone calls from her or occasionally from like the staff or somebody. And I was like, and it just became overwhelming. And I was really trying to process it, you know, go through those limiting beliefs. But I mean, it was like, it was coming every day, multiple times a day. And then I was like, you know, I'm setting myself up to get lower back pain. And sure enough, I did. Right. So, but here's the thing is that I didn't stay stuck on that because I'm like, okay, this too shall pass. Right. And I gave myself enough openness to go, okay, this is not forever. This could go on for another week, a couple of weeks. I don't know how long. They're saying that, you know, it takes a week to get back COVID test results, especially, you know, a couple of months ago. It's just like, I mean, you were really having to wait a long time.
Right.
And so I just allowed, I really took this broader perspective of, okay, this is just a tiny blip in my trajectory. And I also started doing these exercises, simple like stretches and things that a friend of mine taught to me. But I was able to heal that. And part of it was, I think, was doing the stretching exercises like the windmills and the side stretches and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do believe that part of that too was just kind of taking that step back. And this is the other part of it too, is that you may sometimes read about being an observer and a witness. So I had to take a step back for myself and really witness it and go, you know, again, this is not forever, or every time this shows up, just deal with it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment is a new creation, right?
Right.
It's our mind that strings all of these stressful, quote unquote, experiences together, and then suddenly we can't unravel it. I mean, it's just really like this strong cord.
Right.
And think of all that tension and think about what that does in our body.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, you experiencing that feeling like just that constriction, that is that tightening, that is that stress. And you start to unravel it when you, I mean, even just think about like those tassels. I'm getting a picture now. They're showing me like those tassels, like really old-fashioned draperies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all played with those as kids, maybe. So think about how many cords are like, you know, twisted together to make that tassel, right? So we start to unravel by just taking one string of that, and just bit by bit we start to unravel that stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the whole thing. It's nearly impossible, if not impossible, to unravel the whole thing in one go. It's in bits and pieces, fits and starts.
Right.
Just take one thread of that story, whatever story that you're telling about that stress and anxiety, one story, and just work on that just one story, right? And then that's one less thread, and then one less thread. Now, there's always going to be that tassel or cord there, right? But it will get to a point, all you really want is the relief, right?
Right.
You're okay with that being there. I mean, it's not like we go la 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 la. Those things aren't happening, you know? Because then we become delusional, and then that's really not consciousness, right?
Right.
So it's okay for those things to be there, but it's what we're allowing, how that we're allowing that to suddenly manifest into our vibration, right? So just enough loosening of those threads to where suddenly we feel that, okay, I'm not stressed out about it anymore. I know it's there, but it's not stressing me out.
Not like right here. It's sort of in the back seat.
In the background, right? And
Yeah.
that, and as Joshua has said, Joshua, channeled by Gary Temple Bodley, has said that vibrational alignment, when you get to that place where you feel that relief, is when you're vibrationally aligned, right?
Right.
And you don't have to clear all of the energy. It's just enough.
Yeah.
Because when you're meant to clear more of that energy, you will get that guidance, right? To clear more of that energy.
Yeah.
And it may also be that when you've gained more traction on reacquiring your worthiness and you become stronger, you're able to tackle some of those things. Again, you can't tackle it all at once because you're not a vibrational match to that expanded version of you.
It's
That's
that
what this is
whole,
resonating with you, yeah.
yeah, I know. It's like I have such control issues of wanting to control it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it's just, it frustrates me. And in fact, yesterday morning when I did it was the passion meditation, I think, I don't know. And I was just sitting there thinking about other things like this tension that I felt in my body. And I got really upset about it, and it got all escalated because I started thinking about how upset I was about it. And then after I was done, I still was a little bit upset. And then I started to focus on things like, like you said, this too shall pass, just allow it. And then, as the hours went by, I could feel my vibration rising again and feeling like I was back into alignment, and I was able to accept it and feel okay with it, which was much better feeling than being like I was wrestling with it.
Right. So another thing too with that is that when we get into that state of alignment, we don't have to hold on to it. And this sounds really weird, but we just have to let it be, because if we go out of alignment again, we know how to get back into alignment, right? We grow that muscle, so to speak. Okay, so we don't get just one shot at it like, okay, I feel like I'm vibrationally aligned. I need to hold on to this. Because then it's not alignment, because you're attached to an outcome.
Controlling.
You're trying to control the energy, right? You're not letting that energy just free flow through you.
Yes.
And inside you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You have to always sort of remove yourself from yourself in order to really see that happening. It's just when you get so upset with yourself, it's just really, it's difficult to get out of it. But it is that removal of that, like you said, almost what you said before at some point, getting out of yourself.
Yes.
Out
Right.
of your ego, whatever.
Yeah, and just again realizing that you're a multi-dimensional being. Okay, so you sitting on that couch, there's an aspect of Kim having a different exploration in a different dimension. It's all convergence of energy, right? So it really is just getting into that state to where you realize that you are not fixed energy. You are a being of light. That's who you truly are. The physical reality, it's that the game that we're playing, the illusion, right? So we look in the mirror and we think that's all there is to me, is this human shape.
Yeah.
But it's more.
You know what, you said something to me before, what you just said, it was about with the tassel and all the threads
Yeah.
wrapping around and just loosening up one tassel. Well, it made me think of how I've created all those threads wrapped around to
Yeah.
make that tassel, because when I first had, when I was 19 years old, so this, I've been carrying this around with me for a very long time. And it has, improved or loosened up to some degree. But when I was 19 and I first had this, what I call like a giant overwhelming, like I felt like I was going to just obliterate, was what I felt like. I had such anxiety that I was drowning, I guess it was like. And so I had to like hold on, like prevent myself from having, like feeling like I was going to lose myself or something. So I created this, like, oh my God, I have to hold on. And every morning after that, I would wake up and I would be like, open one eye and I'd go, is it still there? And there it came every morning. So I was like adding threads. When I think about it, I was wrapping the threads around even tighter.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Like now it made me think of when I wake up in the morning, maybe I'll say, oh, I feel a thread loosening today. Or,
Right.
just sort of work in the opposite direction. I don't think that way every morning anymore, but it's still there anyway, whether I do or don't. It sort of come in to live with me.
Well, and I can tell you from personal, experience that there are some times where I really think that I cleared all of the energy about that story, about whatever happened or whatever conflict I had with someone else, whatever.
Mm,
Out of the blue, it shows up.
yeah, yeah.
So just it's fine, we're as long as we're drawing breath, we are exploring physical reality, and things will show up again. But there's some nuance that is really tied to whatever is going on for us at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just as spiritual people and co-creators, we judge ourselves, right, for like, I should have, and this, why am I having, this little meltdown inside?
That's what I say. I should be beyond this by
I
now.
should be beyond this, right? Well, the truth of it is, when you were born, you were already beyond it, because you're not your body, right?
Right, right.
You've always been beyond it, but having this experience is that trajectory again,
Mm-hmm.
because when on the other side of the veil, you're beyond it and you choose to come into physical reality. So, I mean, really and truly, you've always been beyond it. I've always been beyond it, right?
Yeah, I know. It is true. It's hard to believe that we would want to experience something like this, but because of this experience, it projects you, or you're on a trajectory to discover yourself,
Yes.
which you didn't know really there was another self to start with, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, just realize that you're a multi-dimensional being. There's an aspect of you in every dimension. Um, the other, just really quick, that I see a lot in the spiritual community is that people want to be in, fifth dimension, right, or beyond, and like, oh, I'm up here. I've grown in my consciousness. I'm up here. But the thing about it is that there's information for us in every dimension.
Hmm.
And sometimes we do have to get to third dimension to then ascend to another dimension. And for me, I mean, it shows up because the way that I get the downloads, they show me pictures like the tassels, right? That third dimensional thing. I didn't go to some esoteric realm of whatever. I didn't go to some other star system to explain that, and I didn't go to Plato or Socrates or whatever, Aristotle to, it's
Yeah.
just a tassel, but this is
Whole
a
everyday
whole
thing.
way
Yeah.
to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really does make sense.
Yeah.
Basic things really help to explain things,
Yes.
even in the spiritual world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think this is a good stopping point for the recording, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it if I can figure that out. Okay, stop recording.